And I thank you all for joining. This is really to cover the pivot point in CourseKey integration for transferring grades from lab into CourseKey and into your student information system. So I am joined here by Pivot Point's AVP of IT Operations and Learning Technology, Javid Fauch. Erica Marshall is not able to make it after all. She had a scheduling conflict. She will make sure to attend. She's going to watch the recording. She did encourage you all to submit questions within the chat so that she can address those questions or answers specific to corporate after this session. So, and I'm Mark Barron, co-founder, Vice President of Business Development and Partnerships here at CourseKey. So, quick agenda. I know you all wear a lot of hats and have limited time, so I'm going to try to get through this content quickly. And we're going to discuss a quick look at the current process and pain points around the grades transfer process from lab into FAME. We're going to discuss why we built this integration, how it impacts future professionals, educators, and administrators, and then the implementation timeline and special offers that we have just for the folks that are registered for the webinar today. So at the end, we will let you know the promotions that you qualify for being interested in this webinar, and we'll go through those details around implementation. And then we'll open up the floor for Q&A, so you guys can ask questions at the end, and we have Javid here to kind of help answer any questions specific to lab itself. Okay. So currently, our understanding of the process for getting future professional grades from Pivot Point to FAME is a manual process. And whether that be done by an academic leader, your instructional leaders, or the front desk person, which we've heard in a couple instances, this is all done manually, all right? And some of the kind of pains that we heard around this manual process is it's delaying the, return to Title IV calculations. There's obviously data integrity with manual data entry. And then there's delays in just understanding where the student is at any given time, right? And then there's no direct visibility outside of lab for the future professionals on how well they're doing with their grades without asking for some type of report from the learning from FAME. So it's usually a delay in when you see the student's progress today because the data transfer process is manual. Okay, what we've heard from a couple of other schools, Paul Mitchell, Chicago, and Lombard said it takes about 20 minutes every time they have to enter in grades, but Colorado Springs said they can spend up to 6 hours a week. So, and then Paul Mitchell, Salt Lake City said it's about 2 to 3 hours per week. So what we've seen is the frequency can vary across campuses. The amount of time that it takes depends on the number of students typically. So we've seen some people that see a significant amount of pain every week and every day, and others that have not. It's not as painful, but the data integrity is consistent across the board, as well as just being able to see the students' progress in a snapshot in real time. So that has been consistent across the schools. And I do want to say thank you to the pilot schools. So CourseKey has been working with a handful of locations, Chicago, Lombard, Colorado Springs, Rexburg, and this pilot group. So we've been piloting over the past couple months, and I do want to give them a shout out and say thank you for spending time with us, optimizing this process so that the rest of the Paul Mitchell schools get a more streamlined experience. So they have participated in this pilot and have helped us kind of optimize this implementation process. So thank you to them. Now, the reason why we built this integration is to provide administrators and future professionals with a world-class experience. So eliminating the data entry and leveraging the technology to free up staff so they can spend more time engaging with students. We wanted to give future professionals real-time visibility into their grades directly from their mobile application and give the future professional advisors visibility into the student progress in real time. So one thing that we've noticed now that the grades are coming into CourseKey is the future professional advisors are able to look at CourseKey and see the students' grades from lab, the attendance that CourseKey tracks from clocking in and clocking out, and the quotas. All that in a snapshot for the student, so that when they're meeting with a student, they know exactly where they are to date, and they can start that dialogue of how to get them on track. So the integration itself is an API integration, and there are a couple benefits to that. That means that Pivot Point is sending CourseKey this data through an API, and what that means is more real time. So Pivot Point is sending us that data regularly. So if you have it configured in lab where a student can take multiple, have multiple attempts for a single exam or test, changes to that overall grade, if you have it set at highest grade or average or most recent, that will automatically update CourseKey's system once the student takes that additional attempt. So if you have it set at highest score and the student originally got a 65%, and they take it a second time, and now they got a passing grade of 80%, that new score will automatically reflect in CourseKey. So that's the benefit of having an API integration versus just kind of a file drop type of data exchange. And with that, the students always have the most recent data on their mobile application. So when they clock in using CourseKey, they can also see their most recent grade from Pivot Point Labs system, which is a big value for the future professionals. So how does this benefit your institution? Here's a snapshot of a student's profile. If you're leveraging CourseKey to track campus hours, quotas, as well as Pivot Point's grades. So here you will see on the student profile, you will be able to see the exam scores from lab on the student profile page, in addition to their quotas, as well as their total attendance to date. So this centralizes everything for the academic leader, for the future professional advisors, for any type of admin at the campus, as well as for the student. They all have visibility into their progress in one view. Okay, so how does this benefit your institution? One, it takes away that manual data transfer process. So instead of having somebody enter those grades directly from lab into FAME, this happens in bulk. So we can upload those grades once a week. This is what we've seen typically. Once a week, the grades get uploaded into FAME from lab. And you can reallocate that time to helping students succeed. So that's intervention, support, just being able to spend more time with students and less time on data entry. And by doing this, we're offering a all-in-one solution for tracking attendance, quotas, and grades, and centralizing it. Okay. Additional piece here is just being able to intervene much sooner. So what we've seen with some of the campuses is, depending on the frequency for transferring grades or transferring quotas or transferring attendance, they don't have the visibility in who they should intervene with until that manual process is complete. So by digitizing all of these processes and automating them, you're able to see who you should intervene with much sooner, which obviously can help save that student. And it's obviously a more compliant and scalable solution. So we have some schools are in acquisition mode. They're actively looking to purchase new campuses, expand programs within a campus. This is a more scalable solution, because if we automate the grades transfer, doesn't matter if it's for barbering, aesthetics, and a Cosmo, it's one streamlined process for all of them, especially as you add new programs to your campuses. And it's reliable, it's accurate, and it's documented. So here's what the benefits for your future professionals, and I think this is really important as we talk about the student experience. On the right-hand side, you see the student mobile application. So you can see the number of haircuts they've had, the number of blow dries they've had, the number, of bleaching that they've completed. That's a practical operations, right? But as they scroll through that profile, they'll be able to see the Pivot Point exam grades. And so you guys will be able to determine which exams and which tests you want visible here in the app, and we'll manage all that through the implementation process. The student might have several assessments and several quizzes that they take in lab, but you only care about maybe 15 to 20 of them transferring to FAME. You guys can determine what those are and we will make sure that those are the exam scores that we see within the CourseKey application for both the student as well as the administrators. So here's a view of the implementation timeline. So we just finished the beta with the beta group, and we are starting to accept reservations for the next wave, which takes place in April. So we have limited seat per wave. So it's kind of a first come, first served basis. We're starting reservations today. So if you are interested in adopting this integration between CourseKey and Pivot Point, you can opt in, and we will start that kickoff process. We will meet with your teams, go through the implementation plans, and start to set target dates for actually enabling this integration. So we are starting that today. And then as we fill up wave 1 reservations, we will start wave 2, which takes place in May, and then wave 3, which takes place in June. And then if we need a 4th wave, we can start that off in July. The good news with having this type of structure is that you might say, hey, I do want this, and I do want to reserve a seat, but I won't be ready until June. We can still offer the promotions that we're running until the end of the month, but you can say, I want to take advantage of that promotion, but I won't be ready until June. Or you might say, hey, I really need this now. I can really benefit from it now. I want to be a part of the April wave. So having these different waves will give the flexibility for you and your campus to determine when it makes sense for you to adopt this integration, okay? So the way you reserve your spot, I want to mention this, is we're going to send out everybody an opt-in survey, okay, at the end of this webinar. And you can say, I do want to adopt the CourseKey Pivot Point integration. So you just basically put your name, your organization, and then that'll come to us. And then we will reach out to you individually. So Madison or Jackson will follow up individually from the CourseKey's side to start that process. Or you can reach out to your Pivot Point business development manager that you already have a relationship with. So you will receive this opt-in survey automatically. CourseKey will follow up with you, or you can reach out directly to your Pivot Point representative. But that's the way you reserve your spot. Now, a couple of promotions that we're offering just for attending the webinar and being interested. If you don't have CourseKey at all and you're just a Pivot Point customer, but you are interested in this, we are offering the attendance for 60 days for free, skills tracker for free, and as well as the Pivot Point integration 90 days for free. Now, for everybody that's on this webinar, the 90-day Pivot Point integration is free for the first 90 days. Okay, so you can adopt this, receive value, and then you actually don't have to pay for this until 3 months after implementation. All right, so we are making that offer for everybody that signs and opts in before the end of the month. These promotions only apply if you opt in before the end of the month. If you say, hey, I can't start until May, but I want to take advantage of this promotion, we will set it for implementation in May, and you will still get 90 days from that date, okay? So I do want to mention that all of these offers are available if you opt in sooner than later, okay? And we went through that pretty quickly. So I do want to open up the floor for Q&A. I do want to open it up to the group and see if you have any questions specific to your school or specific to how this works so that we can get them answered now. Thank you for attending this webinar. And it looks like I don't see any questions yet. You guys can feel free to enter questions into the chat, and we will get them answered. All right. Oh, yes, good question. How much is the integration after the 3-month period? So we have locked in one price for all Paul Mitchell customers. It is $1 per student per month after the promotional period. So we want to make sure that you receive value, it is actually saving time, and it's actually impacting the student experience. And after that, it'll be a $1 per student per month.
Mark, it looks like there's a question about updating tests or test names, and just to address that question, no, if you once the integration is set up, there is a mapping for those tests between PivotPoint and CourseKey, and if there are updates made to that exam in lab, those updates will push through to CourseKey. So whether you're changing the name of one of those exams or some other component of the configuration, those changes will push through in real time, just like they do with the grade, and they will continue then to map into FAME just as they had before.
Perfect.
Great question.
All right.
And there was a follow-up on that about a new test. So if a new test is added, during the implementation process, we will get everything set up for you to sync based on what you indicate to us are the grades that you want to have pushed over to CourseKey. But we will then also provide, at the end of that implementation process, training for whoever is appropriate at your school as to how they would configure a new test to be pushed over to CourseKey. So you will have tools, if you're creating a new exam, to go in and identify that, yes, I want grades for this exam to be pushed to CourseKey, and then those grades will flow in just like the ones that were set up during the implementation process.
Exactly. So the system is flexible. If you needed to add new exams later, you can from directly within the lab UI, and that'll automatically reflect in CourseKey. So we will go through an initial implementation process to help you identify all of those exams and tests by program. But of course, things will change downstream 6 months from now, a year from now, so that you can manage those changes directly from within the lab system. All right, do we have any other questions coming in from the group? I think that pretty much wraps it up. So again, thank you all for joining. We will send out a recording of this, and we will also follow up via email to ask your feedback and to see if you want to opt in. That the biggest thing here is we do have the limited seats, so we want to make sure that we properly accommodate for all of the folks that are looking to register and opt into the first wave. We are about 50% full already for the first wave. So please let us know if you are interested in April, May, or June. Okay. So I guess that concludes today's webinar. Thank you all for joining, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, Javid, for.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Bye.